Welcome to the Coach Dave Love Podcast with NBA shooting coach Dave Love and your host, Matt Robertson, exploring the cutting edge of evidence-based shooting development in basketball today, from shooting form to skill acquisition to shot metrics. This is the Coach Dave Love Podcast.
Welcome to the Coach Dave Love Podcast. I am your host, Matt Robertson, and with me, as always, NBA shooting coach Dave Love. Dave, what's going on?
Matthew, not a lot is going on. I'm in Chicago, Illinois right now, working with a future NBA player who just went through the draft process, and enjoying the humid heat of Chicago in the summer.
Humid heat.
Humid heat. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we almost have to start over again, but we're rolling with it. We're going with it. So
really, really strong. Keep it going.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm great. No complaints at all. Was telling you off the air, I'm tinkering with a new pizza oven, which is a fun thing. I like the process-driven kind of ways to prepare food, and whether that's like pulled pork for 24 hours or that's pizza over the course of a 6-hour dough proof make, it fires me up.
All right, and tell everybody, Matthew, how come you got this pizza oven?
I thought we weren't doing this on the air, David. It happens to be my birthday today. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, happy birthday again. And how old now?
I am 36 years old. My knees are 55. My hairline is 60, but my heart is young.
Yeah, well, everything about me is 50. So enjoy having something that feels 36.
That's right. That's my heart. It's only my heart. Yeah, man, it's been a good little run. Family kind of put it together, and I get to play a little golf tomorrow for the day. So a little sunny weather to cap it all off. It's been a great little run.
Nice. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you, buddy. Real quick, I want to talk about your time in Chicago. Give me a peek at meeting this player for the first time. I know we've talked about this in other set of contexts, but what's it like meeting a player for the first time? How do you go about that? What does the workout look like? Just for my own curiosity.
Yeah. So in this particular case, I won't mention the player's name. I try and avoid talking about them until like a good amount of work has gone by, so that I'm not accidentally putting too much pressure on a player by, you're working on your shot and now everybody expects him to be improved. So this is a player that was in the draft, went undrafted. He's connected with an agent that I do work for, and has one of those jump shots that needs some significant work, that he knows it. He is way out of position and it's holding him back. And so we connected at Summer League just to see, is he out of position because he's not capable of getting in position, like his body won't allow him, or is it just a bad habit? And so we got an hour together at Summer League, and it went well, and sort of explained to him what the process might look like. And he was in on it. So now we're in his hometown of Chicago. And so this was, this morning was workouts 1 and 2, because we've only got a limited time. We're going to do 3 workouts today, and that's purpose driven, that I want his body to forget the feelings that we're trying to build, and then be forced to recall. It's a principle called forgetting curves that we'll probably end up doing a little bit later, and as an episode of the podcast. So we did 2 workouts this morning. We're going back for a third this afternoon. And really at this point, we're learning about why the habits are holding him back and what better habits will look like. And then I've got to make sure I'm teaching him how to practice on his own. So today we talked about what the challenge point is. We talked about repetition without repetition, and adding variability, and my 7 different layers. And so really trying to teach him next week how to how to be the shooting coach as much as I'm teaching him to be the player that with better shooting form.
This is awesome. Thank you for that little look. Kind of gives me a little flashback to a podcast we did with a guest who happens to be from a country that we beat at the Olympics this morning. So that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
Week in America.
And we don't like to brag. We're not that kind of people. But we beat them on a couple of different levels in basketball, because our women 3-on-3 beat this country's their 3-on-3 team. And I'm a little heartbroken by that one, because I'm actually working with one of the players on the Australian women's 3-on-3 who will probably come on the podcast eventually. So heart pulled in two directions on that one, but never hurts when your home country wins. So
fair enough. And the segue there was that you spent a really protracted amount of time with this one player in America in the summertime, where you did a couple workouts in a day to try to make the most of the time. And that was sort of my brain doing the Zach Galifianakis math problems everywhere.
Do we want to spend like 2 minutes on forgetting curves?
Like, I wrote it as you were talking. I wrote it as you were talking in another podcast topic file, but your world, we're just living in it, Dave.
I hate that. I listened to the beginning of our last week's podcast this morning, and was reminded of that little nugget and how much I loathe it. But yeah, forgetting curves, moving away from you as quickly as possible. Forgetting curves are the concept that when I teach you something, that moment that you learn it is the moment that you will know the most, given the resources that you have about that topic. Like, it's fresh in your mind. You don't have to recall anything. You have as much memory as you can have about the thing that you just learned, because you just learned it. And over time, we forget things. And the principle of forgetting curves is proven that the more often you're forced to remember, the longer and better you remember each time. And this shouldn't come across as a surprise to, or this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but like the second time I remind you of something, you remember more of it for longer, because now you've had access to the information twice. And then the third time, you again remember more of it longer still. And what is really profound and important to me about it is the understanding that forgetting is an important part of remembering. And that we actually have to forget so that we can learn to remember and be able to recall it. And we do so much work, I think, accidentally as coaches, trying to prevent players from forgetting. And that just builds that dependency on us as coaches to solve problems. And we need to kind of let them forget, and then teach them to recall later on. So that's why I try and do, like, as opposed to 1 2-hour workout, I'll try and do 2 1-hour workouts in a day, or today 3.
Legit sounds profound when you say we have to forget so we can remember. It sounds profound. Is there an ideal amount of time that you would give somebody to forget? I know as a player, sometimes I was very forgetful very quickly, much to coach's chagrin, leaving a timeout and just gone.
Yeah, I can't say. My instinct would be that this is dependent on each individual person. But you don't always have enough control over the environment to do it exactly how you want. Like, I've now got 4 days with this player, and then we're going to be in different cities for the next couple of weeks. And so, all right, we got 4 days to try and pretend this is as many days as we can. And so I'm trying to, just squeeze. I try and at least do 2 workouts. I don't necessarily like doing more than 2. I think there's a little bit of law of diminishing returns, but in this particular case, because habits are so tough at this point for him, and we do have that small window that we're going 3 times this week.
Classic Coach Dave answer, much like in finance and in law, the answer, it depends.
Yeah, man, I get that all the time from my skill acquisition people. Well, it really depends on a lot of factors. I know, but just
give me the answer.
Give me a definite answer. And now I'm starting to, like I said to the player today, like, I'm going to drive you crazy at times because I'm not going to give you clear-cut answers. I'll probably circle back with another question back at you. And trying to ride the line between not doing that just for the sake of doing it, but doing it for a reason of like, no, you can solve this problem. So solve it, or you don't actually have the resources to solve this one yet. I'll give you the resources and then encourage you to solve it later.
Good job by you. A true definition or a true example of practicing what you preach on this podcast. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Matthew.
My pleasure, David. Let's get on to the topic of the day, common mistakes I see coaches making. Before we dive into a few of these things, Dave, are these some things that you have made mistakes on in the past or have been able to kind of gradually get out of your coaching, or is this stuff you see other people doing, or where does this come from?
Yeah, for the most part, these are mistakes I've also made when I was early on in my career, and maybe not as educated as I try to be now. Thank you for this lead-in, because what I wanted to make sure I said was I don't want this to come across as condescending. I don't want this to come across as I never make these mistakes. Like, I've admitted multiple times on the podcast already, and I will continue to do so, that I struggle with internal cues. I probably give them too much. I definitely lacked variability in my workouts early on in my career. So some of this is I've made these mistakes myself. Some of it is in watching other coaches do workouts. Some of it is in watching people's social media, which I'll also give the caveat that I understand that your social media may not be your purest representation of how you coach, that it might be the social media version of how you coach. But these are the things I tend to see, and so I just want to kind of shed some light on them and talk about how we can maybe do them better.
I love this. As the listener, as the voice of the people, as a relatively average coach, I will tell you, I will do my best to not feel any kind of way if you nail one of the things that like hits me right here. And I will tell you if you hit a nerve. So carry on.
All right. So let's start with the first one. The thing that I see from coaches, and it goes back to our first episode of the podcast, like, define your purpose. I see two ends of the spectrum being made where coaches, the purpose of the workout that they're implying is we're just getting shots up, and there isn't really a reason for being there. Or the flip side of this would be, and we talked about it on the podcast last week, that having a new purpose on every single shot. And so we've got to kind of find that happy medium of like making sure that we have a purpose to what we're doing. And it can be a couple of different things, but we don't want it to be 7 or 8 different things. We want to try and keep the focus to 1 or 2 ideas.
So much like your swing thought in golf, you can't have more than 1 or 2 things that you're actively working on. I got a chance to hit some balls earlier today, and I was having some issue, and there was 3 competing thoughts that I was trying to do. And I actually thought to myself, Dave would say that's dumb. You can't hold that many things in your head. Pick one and move on.
Yeah, and that's really what I try and do with my video shot analysis is like I'll say in the first minute of the video, in the 10 or 12 minutes that I'm spending talking to you, I'm going to talk about as many things as I possibly can. And I may give you 6 constructive things to work on and 4 compliments. So you've got 10 ideas. But by the end of the video, I want to nail it down to what one thing would get you the quickest or the easiest returns, and let you focus on that. And then we can reassess after that and say, like, okay, do we need to significantly improve more? Can it be a little more maintenance based from there? But yeah, like, just find the most important thing and give that the most of your attention.
So becomes a return on investment question for coaches with these players.
Yeah, not everybody, nobody is going to shoot the ball perfectly in each coach's mind. Like, if I think Devin Booker has the greatest shooting form player, there's still things I can probably nitpick about Devin Booker, but our goal isn't to get everybody to look like that. Our goal is just to get people to improve, and we've got to be able to clearly identify what habit do we need to improve, and then how simple can I keep the list, but at the same time, how accountable can I hold the player while going through that list, and which kind of leads me into the next thought. But you have something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, can you talk a little bit about accountability in this kind of this segment? So defining the habit they're working on. So never defining a habit or defining too many things. Can you talk about accountability in regards to this?
Yeah, there was a young coach in my city that invited me to kind of watch a workout that he was doing with the player. And to his credit, he says, we're really working on, she has a tendency to catch the ball and then quick 1-2 step after the catch. And he said, number one, I'm worried it's a travel. Number two, it's definitely wasting time. And so we're really working to get rid of those steps. I said, great. Okay, he's got a purpose. It's a short list. It seems like an important thing. And then I start to observe the workout, and in 99% of shots, she caught the ball and then took a 1-2 step. Caught the ball, 1-2 step. I'm like, well, you've defined your purpose. It's a good manageable number of ideas, but you're not actually adjusting the environment so that the player can do this. You're paying lip service to what you're working on, but you're actually reinforcing the exact opposite. You're reinforcing the habit that you say that you're trying to break.
And the reinforcing, you just mean it's as many reps without trying to make a change, or without holding accountable to that habit that she continues to perform.
Yeah, if you say you're working on trying to get your footwork set before or on the catch, and you're trying to break the habit of catching, then taking the steps, but on every rep it's catch and take the steps, what are you in fact ingraining or practicing? You're practicing the thing that you say that you're trying to break. And in his mind, he was probably like, I'm giving the code, like I'm defining what we're working on, and she's got to figure it out. But it's you're the one creating the environment, and so we've got to be able to simplify that environment in this player's case. Give them a little bit more time, give them less things to do, like adjust the constraints on the drills so that we can get them in the challenge point and we can actually start to practice the thing that we say we're working on. And so in this particular case, because I have a feeling you're going to ask me for something very, very tangible. In this particular case, I was said, okay, player, if you want a left-right step into this, if that's what's natural for you, I want you to start with your left foot down. And I'm going to be back a good 15 feet from you, and I'm going to make a slow pass to you. And the only focus here is that right foot has to be set on or before the catch. So I'm just giving you one of the two steps to make, and you've got to get that down in more time so you have a chance to be a little bit more deliberate. And so hopefully that would help them, and then you adjust from there and ask, okay, do we need to simplify further? Are they still struggling, or can we start to build from here and complicate?
From an accountability standpoint, you see a player doing this habit 5 times in a row, 7 times in a row. At what point do you kind of stop the drill? Not kind of. At what point do you stop the drill and address, or do you verbal cue, or what does that look like for you in this kind of a situation? I apologize. My throat's kind of full today. I'm going to try and mute if I have to clear my throat again.
No worries. I think it would depend on a lot of factors. I would definitely have said something before it got to 7 times in a row. But how I would go about doing that might be different dependent on the player and the situation. So it might start with a really deliberate coaching intervention of like, okay, stop. What are we working on? What did you feel? Or like today, in one of our workouts, the player was they would always start their shot by looking down at the floor, and like they were deep in thought, looking at the floor, and as they got the ball up towards their set point, then they turned their focus to the rim. And so after seeing this and explaining, okay, let's find our target earlier and find our target before we start the shooting motion. He did well with that for the first 10 minutes, and then of course forgot a little bit as he gave more attention to other things. And so my coaching intervention might just be after I see it 2 times in a row, because I'm a jerk. And worse than being a jerk, I also think I'm hilarious. Nobody else other than my oldest daughter finds me hilarious, maybe Matthew, but we might be the only ones. I went and I kind of stood beside him and like got down and like looking at the floor, like, and then looked back at him like, what am I missing? What are you looking at down there? And then he got the point of, oh yeah, stop looking at the floor. But I got to laugh while doing it. So, because I always find like when you can make fun of players to their face, that's a really good teachable moment. And for the people listening, that's sarcasm. That was me sort of poking fun at myself. Don't actually do that before you have a relationship where they know that you're just teasing them.
It's a bonding moment that you need to be sure is the right moment, right?
Yeah. Fortunately, this guy gets my sense of humor, and we communicate well, so I can tease him gently about little things like that, and then I'm sure that by Friday, there's going to be hairline jokes or old man jokes coming back at me, and so all fair game.
Bring it on. I love that. So first common mistake we see coaches, or Coach Dave sees coaches making, either never defining the habit we're working on or defining every possible habit. Coach Dave, I'm going to quiz you on this when we come back from this first break.
Hey there, basketball fans. I'm NBA shooting coach Dave Love, and I've got exciting news just for you. Introducing my exclusive, free basketball shooting newsletter. It's packed with insights and techniques straight from the hardwood. Have you ever wondered how NBA players improve their shots? Or how you could get to the next level, whether you're a college player, a coach, or a budding youth player? My newsletter brings all this and more directly to your inbox. Each edition is a deep dive into the world of basketball shooting. I'll share some of the tips and ideas that I use with my NBA clients, tailored for every level of the game. But wait, there's more. Subscribers receive exclusive monthly discounts on my online products. From training videos to personalized coaching sessions, you'll get it all for a fraction of the price. And the best part of all, it's absolutely free to join. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your game and join a community of passionate players and coaches from around the globe. Signing up is easy. Just visit CoachDaveLove.com.
Welcome back. Coach Dave, As we often do in this podcast, after a break, we're running an after timeout. You drew up a play while we were on the break. I'm going to put 24 up on the thought clock, and you're going to give us a look at the thing we talked about in our last segment.
Okay, I want to remind people in the last segment about forgetting curves. The idea that the more we forget and are reminded, the longer and better we're going to remember. So don't feel like you have to constantly remind and never let a player forget. We actually do want them to forget, but we need there to be another coaching intervention to come back and remind later on. And the reason, so that's the shot, that's my ATO. The reason I went with that one is I felt like going into the end of at the end of the quarter, I felt like you ran an excellent set that got a good look, which would have been my ATO. And I didn't feel like I needed to run that ATO because you had already done it at the end of the first quarter there. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but you had a very nice coachable moment just before the break, so I didn't need to repeat.
Coach Dave, I appreciate that. I'm on your wavelength. I'm catching your drift. And to be honest, I had forgotten about the forgotten curve. So thank you for bringing that up again. Coach Dave, what is the second common mistake you see coaches making?
Well, again, and a lot of these things are going to be the ends of the extremes. So I see a lot of coaches who are doing a ton of block practice with no variability, or they're doing highly variable drills, but almost for the sake of variability with no real accountability to a habit. And so this would be my criticism of some of the wonderful skill acquisition people, the people that are like really really dialed in on the research of skill acquisition, that they know variability leads to adaptability, and we want adaptability, but maybe they don't know shooting as well. And so they're hoping that the variability is going to teach, when what I try and do is get variability, but around a habit. Like a great example of this will be, I see a lot of reactionary drills, which is good. They're a great way to create some variability, but then players are constantly shooting off balance shots, or like still thumb flicking the ball. And so they were just repeating their current habits in variable situations. And the variability will force adaptability, but they're still exploring their corner of the sandbox, in the analogy that we keep giving. And so it's not just like, okay, create the variability of the drill and give me a different shot each time, but do that while I'm going to make it challenging for you to get your balance. You're going to be moving. You're going to have to get stable. What habits are going to help us be stable? Those are the things that I find that we tend to miss at the opposite end of the spectrum from no variability.
So this is really interesting. We did a podcast about group workouts, and you had noted that it would be great or optimal if every player had the habit that they're working on during the group workout. So you as the coach can add variability to these drills and in a myriad of ways, or in myriad ways, depending on how you want to use that word. But each player is still being held accountable to the one habit that they're supposed to be working on. So they're exploring the sandbox in those variable situations with a habit they're trying to lock in. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, again, everything needs to come back to what's the purpose. Like, why are we adding variability? Because there's variability in a game, okay, but what challenge are we facing amongst this variability that is causing us lack of success? Like, what is holding us back? And so it's not just do whatever you feel right in a variable situation and you're going to get better, but it's also not like do it perfectly in a situation that lacks variability. it's the balance of those two things, and like defining a habit but not defining too many, having variability but having accountability to a habit. Though we need to find the balance in all of this. That's the art of coaching.
I was going to say, after you finished the variability explanation, I was like, oh, I'm getting a theme here, that it is about balance and not defining 1,000 habits, but also making sure you define more than one. And no variable is bad, but also too much variability, but no accountability is bad. Balance is the important thing.
Yeah. And so when you're watching like people's, I think the great value in social media is seeing how other people do things and cherry picking the great ideas that you want to start to incorporate yourself, but then finding solutions for the mistakes that you see people making. And so when you're watching a coach's social media and that they're doing the same situation over and over and over again, like drift to the corner 3, drift to the corner 3 off a catch, and it's no, let's get 10 reps of this. You need to think like, okay, we're not getting a ton of variability. The player's brain is going into auto mode and shutting down. How do you get their brain back engaged? And it's adding a reaction or adding variability to it while still maintaining the accountability to the habit that we're working on.
Can I get on my soapbox just for 1 second, Dave?
Fine.
Talking about drifting to the corner and adding a reaction, my least favorite turnover in all of basketball is the step out of bounds from the guy in the corner when somebody gets in his airspace and they do a negative step on the way to either a drive or a sidestep or whatever. What a simple thing to add as an accountability. Whatever the reaction is, don't step out of bounds. It's a simple freaking thing, and it probably cost us 2 or 3 points every time it happens in a game, plus whatever happens the other direction. Anyway, that is one thing. It's so simple to add, and players don't do it enough in their own workouts, and we probably don't put enough emphasis on it in our practices and rant over, but that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And okay, so let's find a solution to this. So do you have an idea of how you'd want to, because that negative step is actually valuable in 90% of the other spots on the floor. It's just in the corners, you don't have the space to step backwards. And so how are you going to, as a coach, do you have an idea yet, or do you want to steal mine of how you're going to kind of teach that?
Well, to build on what you're doing, so whatever the ball is doing, we have a drifter to the corner and adding the reaction there, whether that's a defender or a coach cue or something where they have to find a stimulus that triggers the event, whether it's shooting or driving. And then the habit they're being held accountable to is not negative stepping in the corner.
Yep.
But that's not answering the question, but that's the framework.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, and so even when I'm by myself and it's just me and the player and they're drifting to the corner, they'll figure out usually by day 2 that every once in a while, this old man is going to sprint very, very slowly. And not very dynamically, but he's going to do his version of sprinting at me to close out, and then even when I'm alone, I've got to try and then be the referee and say, did they react in this way that's illegal, or did we solve the problem in an appropriate way? And it's the challenge of a one-on-one workout, is that coach now you're wearing the passer hat, the rebounder hat, the coach hat, the defender hat, and now the referee hat. And there's a lot of hats on your head, but we can't fall back into, I'm just the coach, and I'm in autopilot mode as well. That's what you've got to do.
There's a movie reference you made me think of. I'm going to keep it brief, but in the movie Role Models, Jane Lynch runs it's Big Brothers, Big Sisters, basically, and Sean William Scott is like looking after a kid, and she's establishing dominance. She said, I'm the head coach, I'm the quarterback, I'm the referee, I'm the general manager, and you got to do what I say. Wearing a lot of hats. Okay, so either no variability or variability for the sake of variability, but no accountability to a habit. Dave, that's the second common mistake you see coaches making. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with another ATO.
Hey basketball fans, Coach Dave Love here with an exclusive offer just for you, my personalized video shot analysis. Imagine having an NBA shooting coach analyze your shooting form, just like I do for the pros. That's exactly what you'll get with my video shot analysis. Here's how it works. You send me a video of your shot and I'll break it down frame by frame. I'll pinpoint your strengths and identify the areas of improvement and give you tailored advice to take your shot to the next level. You'll receive a comprehensive analysis designed just for you. Whether you're a beginner or an aspiring pro, my feedback will help you shoot with confidence and precision. It isn't just feedback, it's a game changer. With my video shot analysis, you're not just practicing, you're evolving, and every single shot counts. Ready to transform your game? Visit CoachDaveLove.com/store to learn more and get started. That's CoachDaveLove.com/store and look for video shot analysis.
Welcome back. Coach Dave, 24th on the thought clock. Give me a look at what we just did in the last segment.
Well, Matt just dominated the ATO before the TO, and so I'm left with it. No, it's good work by you. The mistake that I see, like, we either have no variability, we have block practice doing the same thing over and over and over again, or we get variability for the sake of variability, hoping the variability is going to teach, and it does, but not nearly as well as variability with accountability attached to it.
Crushed it.
I feel like that was a really good one. And awesome. You got an assist for that, because like I was just doing a Matt imitation for the first like 10 seconds of the ATO, and then yeah. Wow.
What really crushed it and crystallized it for me that I want to hammer home, even though it's not quite hammer action just yet. Variability is a great way to teach adaptability, but variability with accountability is the best way. I think that is perfect, and we should clip that, Dave, because you crushed it.
I feel like also we need to get coffee mugs and T-shirts made that says something to that effect. Yeah.
My work coffee mug says "freak in the sheets," but that's just an XL joke. So, all right, Coach Dave, give me the common mistake you see, the third common mistake you see coaches making.
I think coaches, especially on Instagram and social media, are spending way too much time coaching to the perfect things, the perfect habits that will never occur in a game. And the one that really gets my attention is coaching the perfect starting position of a shot, meaning like triple threat, or I see it referred to as the one position a lot. And so I think spending time learning the perfect one position is a delightful waste of time. And I'm exaggerating that just to kind of make I'm a grumpy old man kind of point. But teaching that perfect starting point of your shooting motion doesn't occur in a game. And so what we really need to be doing is teaching how to solve the problems and get a B+ in a situation where the defender may be forced to, like, they're trying to force you to shoot a C+ shot, but you were able to get closer to ideal. Like exploring the sandbox more than just like perfecting standing in the middle of it.
One thing you said to me a few episodes ago that really stuck was practicing as optimal a shot as possible given the situation and as balanced as possible given the situation. And that is exactly what you're saying. Perfection is impossible. Perfection is the enemy of good, is a famous saying, and I really believe that, because we can never be perfect. And even when I got it going and it feels like I have flames coming out of my hands, I guarantee if you run the video back, none of the things are perfect. You know,
Right.
It's
And the benefits of the shot metrics, the stuff that we're doing, studying shooting, the starting point of your shot is nobody repeats it perfectly. Like I've now got data points on hundreds of NBA players shooting shots, and if you overlay them, even for the most repeated player, like the great shooters, even in controlled environments, they don't do exactly the same thing from your triple threat, one position, whatever you want to call that. Um, that's not repeated. The earlier on in the shooting motion that you're trying to teach perfect, the more you're wasting your time. And then conversely, because you've figured out that like there's always the balancing act in this episode. The opposite end of the spectrum is coaching the stuff that occurs after the ball leaves the hand. I see way too much of that where coaches they're coaching the follow through, or they're coaching looking up at the ball when the ball's at its apex, and like these are not saying that there's not valuable information in that occurring, but when the ball's already gone, what is happening with the player's body shouldn't be our primary focus. It should be, what is our body doing while the ball is in our hand? And as we're approaching the release is by far the most significant moment, not the beginning or after.
I was thinking as you were talking about that, paying attention to how somebody lands after their jump shot. And the stuff that gets you there is really important, but that doesn't really, it's an indicator, but you shouldn't be just coaching that one thing, right? You kind of talked about that before.
Where you land is an indicator of where you might have been in the middle as you're releasing the ball. And unfortunately, that happens, that moment in time when you're releasing the ball, that I think is the most important moment in shooting. And I think a lot of people would agree. You can get some feedback from the end on what might have occurred during that brief period of time. So that's the value of like the follow through, or where the feet land at the end of the shot. Is it gives you a little feedback of what might be happening in the middle that is just the blink of an eye.
If you had to pick one thing, so you're talking about coaching perfection and things that'll never be perfect in games, as close to perfect as possible, is there one thing that you're like, oh, your set point should be as consistent and perfect as possible? Is there one thing that you would kind of stick to if we had to teach perfection, or you know what I mean? Is there one?
Yeah. And you already got it, the set point. Like that's why a lot of my drills for form shooting, movement coordination, form shooting drills are with a pause at the set point, begin at the set point, or move slowly up until the set point, is so that we can give direction and trying to be in a similar position. That's really the moment that if you overlay photographs of Steph Curry at his set point, they're probably going to look really, really similar. If you overlay photographs of Steph Curry as he starts lifting the ball is going to be on the right side of his body. The ball is going to be on the left side of his body, like that, out away from his body, close to his, but like we're going to have a whole bunch of different photographs of him with the ball down around his waist, but they're going to look very, very similar once we get up around his forehead. And so that's where I will try and chase a little bit more perfection.
Absolutely brilliant. Coach Dave, anything else in this section you want to hit before we move on? Because that was a really great succinct.
Are we coming back with hammer action after this next commercial?
Yes.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one because I feel like we've been doing hammer action within this whole thing, but that's not an excuse. We're going to figure out a way to make that happen. The last thing I want to say would be the last mistake that I see coaches, and this is the one I'm super guilty of myself, is the internal cues, like just giving too many cues about the what the body should be doing that will direct the player's attention to the body. And I might start there, but then we're trying to transition to an external cue. And I actually was really proud of myself today where like trying to use the internal cue to just, I think I did a really good job of guiding towards like, okay, what is the feeling created? And getting into external cues that are better for compound movements earlier, more often, and with more meaning than I historically have as a coach.
Very cool. There was an entire episode on internal and external cues. If you want a deeper dive into that subject matter, Coach Dave tells some charming and funny stories in that episode. Feel free to check that out. About the development of the different cues of the different players, part of the relationship building. I really love that. Okay, we're going to come back after the break with hammer action. And as you said, we've been practicing hammer action all game long, but they're running the zone. And so the hammer is available. So let's come back after this.
Hey there, basketball fans. Coach Dave Love here with an exciting opportunity to revolutionize your shooting game. Introducing my exclusive shot development systems, Pure Release, Consistency and Balance, and Fluidity and Arc. Each system is designed to target key aspects of your shooting technique, transforming you into a more effective player on the court. Pure Release focuses on perfecting your shot release. Consistency and Balance enhances your stability and accuracy, and Fluidity and Arc works on your ball path and trajectory of your shot. Find out the drills and progressions that I use with my NBA players to improve these important habits. Can't decide which one to choose? No worries, grab the bundle and get all three systems at a fantastic value. It's a complete package to elevate every part of your shooting game. And there's a special deal for all my podcast listeners. Use the promo code PODCAST20 at checkout to save 20% on any of the shot development systems. Don't miss this chance to train like the pros. Visit CoachDaveLove.com/store and take your first step towards shooting success. That's CoachDaveLove.com/store.
Welcome back. Coach Dave, 24 up on the thought clock. Give us a concise look at what we did in the last segment for this ATO.
When you direct your coaching attention, I feel like you're going to miss... let me start again. Wave that one off.
Blow it down. Yeah.
The earlier on in the shooting motion that you are giving feedback, the more you might be wasting your time with the feedback. Don't chase a perfect beginning of the shooting motion, because in a game, it's probably never going to happen. Teach variability early on in the shooting motion, and then if you're going to chase perfection, chase it at the set point instead.
Decent look. Wasn't my favorite. They went under on the screen. You pulled the three. I'll take it. It's not a bad look.
Yeah. I'm not thrilled with it, but I'm not disappointed either. That was a good, bad shot.
It's a good, bad shot. All right, Coach Dave. So we come to sort of the end of the episode, and we've called this segment Hammer Action because this is time for us to hammer home an actionable insight from the episode for your coaches out there today. Coach, give us the Hammer Action today.
Oh, man, I was hoping you were going to help me out and guide me to something more specific, because so I want you to be really aware of the sweet spot in your next practice. I want you going in with two ideas. Let's do this. Two ideas for every, like two physical habits two drills to help the player explore around that optimal movement pattern, and then two ways that you can add variability to it. And then just explore with, okay, you've now got how many, I guess you've got about 8 different combinations of things that you can do. And so don't go in with no plan. Don't go in trying to cure cancer. Just go in with a little bit of focus, but some variability on what are we going to work on? We're going to work on these 2 things. Okay, what drills are we going to use? We're going to start with these 2 drills for each of those habits, and then when it comes time, if we're able to, we're going to add more difficulty or variability with these 2 additions to each of those drills. And
Coach
then
Dave,
you may not get to any, some of those, but play with it.
I really like that. You have found the balance for people who are looking for a definitive answer on balance.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
It makes me feel good about myself.
That is an answer. It is definitive, and it's something to work on. And for you out there, it might be that you need 4 things, 4 drills, or you might say 2's too many. 1 only works for me, but it's about finding balance. And that is the art, as we've talked about the last few episodes. That is the art of coaching.
Matthew, I feel like we did a good job with this one.
Again, we're at an hour. We're pretty close with commercials and themes. So, Coach Dave, where can the people find you if they want to give you mostly the good feedback from our podcast?
I would love you to sign up for my newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com. And then I would love for you to find me on X or Instagram. I'm on Twitter/X more than I am Instagram these days. But you can find me at Coach Dave Love on both those things. What about you, Matty?
Awesome. You can find me at Coach Matty Rob on X. If you want to give the bad feedback, I'll happily take that. And I'm also on LinkedIn. Thanks for sticking with Thank you for sticking with us till the end. As always, we really appreciate you being a part of the community. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. It all really helps. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Coach Dave Love Podcast. To stay up to date with our future episodes, please remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to sign up for Coach Love's free shooting newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com, and be sure to follow him on social media. You can find him at Coach Dave Love.